How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome! Today, we're going to talk about Grand Archive and a little bit about my thoughts on Kickstarter collectible games in general. Grand Archive is a trading card game currently on Kickstarter. So now this isn't an actual card, this is actually part of their print and play because they submitted a print and play so people can test out the game before they actually commit to backing it, which I think is really, really cool. And we'll talk a lot about that a little bit later in the video, but I think it's safe to say that I was interested in the game enough to actually print these out on cardboard, not super hard cardboard, but print these out on cardboard at a local print shop and test the game out. These are actually in the excellent dual matte Dragon Shield. And that leads me to one of our brand new partners of the channel. I'm gonna call them sponsors. They're more like partners than sponsors, and that is Dragon Shield. I've mentioned this in a couple recent videos, but Red Zone Rogue is actually now partnering with Dragon Shield. I actually have an affiliate link in the description down below, so if you'd like to pick up any Dragon Shield products, go ahead and do so. And this is kind of like a partnership that came out because they saw my video about me talking about the Dragon Shield custom sleeves, and you know, I wasn't 100% positive on those. I thought they were great, but I thought they were expensive, and they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we love your content, would you like to partner with us? And I was like, yeah, I already use your stuff. I would love to. Dragon Shield is what I use for all of my sleeves anyway, so it seemed like an absolute no-brainer. And so they sent me like a big box of stuff to like demo and review, including this nest egg and the sleeves and a bunch of other stuff. But I'm giving them the run for the money. So yes, Dragon Shield, new partner for Red Zone Rogue. Check out the link in the description down below, and it goes and supports me. And hopefully this partnership can lead to more custom Dragon Shield Red Zone Rogue sleeves at a cheaper price, so I can offer them to you at a lower price. That is one of my big hopes from that partnership. But anyway, let's talk about Grand Archive and Kickstarter games. So it's kind of a hot button topic right now, and if you listen to the interview I had with Zach Bunn from Team Covenant, we have a whole section on it because it's something that I wanted to ask him, specifically his thoughts on the recent boom of Kickstarter trading card games. And it's something that I'm a little trepidatious about, is that the right word? I'm a little bit iffy on a lot of them, even though I am backing a couple. So I'm be completely transparent here, I am backing Genesis. And I think that's a bit of a different situation. It's not a new game, it's just supplementing something that already exists, and that's a whole other thing. I am also backing Grand Archive currently, and then I intend on heavily backing Sorcery when it comes out. And the big draw from these three things, for me personally, these are games that I've already played or can play right now with the ability to print and play Grand Archive. And I think they also have it on Tabletop Simulator as well. And that's the big takeaway for these games for me, and it's the big takeaway that I want you to have from this video. We're going to talk a lot in detail about a lot of these things, but I will never recommend a Kickstarter game to you unless it's something that you personally like and want to play, period. I will never recommend a Kickstarter game to you for investment purposes, because Kickstarter, in its fundamental ethos, is a way to get small projects off the ground. It's not a way to invest in something that you think is going to be big. It could be. Some people definitely do that, especially with what happened to MetaZoo, but it's not something that I personally recommend, and it's not something I personally do. I only back, and I have a public Kickstarter. You can see all the stuff that I'm backing or have backed. I literally only back things that I personally want to play, period. That's the bottom line, and that's what I would recommend to the Rogues Gallery out there. If you want to invest in it and you want to take that risk, that is your own prerogative, but I will be recommending these things from a gameplay standpoint and an enjoyability standpoint. That's where I'm approaching this from. And so that takes me to the discussion that I had with Zach Bunn, because I had a lot of concerns, and I still have a lot of concerns about the recent boom of Kickstarter trading card games, because I look at it and I can't help but wonder what percentage of the people backing these games actually care about the game and the community and playing the game, and don't care about just making a quick buck. And it has to be a decent percentage of these people just backing it to make a quick buck. And I won't fault you for that. Like, if that's what you're doing, go for it. Like, and if you think you can make money and you can actually do that, like, go for it. You know, giving these studios and these small companies the money to actually rise up and start their product, regardless of your intent, I think is a net positive. But overall, for the health of the game, right, if like half the people, or maybe even like 40% of the people backing the Kickstarter, and there's only like 500 people backing the Kickstarter, that means only like, what, 250-ish people actually care about the game, which means the community and who actually wants to play it is very low, and that is very concerning to me for the longevity of a lot of these games. One of the reasons why I looked at Grand Archive, well, first of all, the art is phenomenal. It is straight up some of the best anime style art that I've seen, and I personally really love, obviously, fantasy style anime things, and so it just immediately grabbed my attention. I'm like, oh, this is my jam. Like, this is for me. And I looked into it. I was immediately turned off by one thing. We'll talk about that in a second. But everything else, I was like, yeah, I'm here for this. The one thing that I was very much turned off on was they have a bit about NFTs. Let me put it that way. And I'm not the biggest fan of NFTs. I don't hate them as much as some people, but I definitely not a fan of them. But the way that they're doing them, I understand it, and I don't think it is negative. Let me put it that way. I don't think the way they're doing it is negative. They're not doing it in a way that affects the environment, and they're also not stealing the art from artists. What they're doing is they're going to be putting little codes, like QR codes, in booster packs that you can scan into like an app, and then they become NFTs, and then you use those in like a future product if the technology's there. That's basically what they're doing it for. They're using these as like future game pieces or collectibles or something similar to like a Warhammer Champions kind of thing, if you remember that, how you could like scan the cards in. That's how they're kind of using it, which is fine. I'm not super into that. I want to play with the physical cards, but I was turned off by the NFTs, and then I looked into it and I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. That was like the real thing where like I didn't back it for a little bit, and then I was like, you know what, it's not as bad. I'll jump in on this. The second reason why I'm actually going in on it is because after hanging out in the Discord and talking to the devs a little bit, they actually really care about the game, and they care about the gameplay and the community, and there's a lot of people in the Discord who also care about the gameplay and the community, and I get the vibe from it, the overall vibe, that it's not just packed full of people trying to make a quick buck. I'm sure there are people who are trying to do that, but there's a decent enough chunk that care about the game and care about like the characters, and they care about the art, which is another really important thing to me, that I was like, okay, I can kind of like get on with this, even though it's like a new thing and I haven't played it yet. I can get on with this. And then they put out their print and play, which I did. Obviously, I printed them, both decks actually. There's the warrior deck and the mage deck, and here is, you know, the mage deck. I printed these out, and so, you know, my full intent is to play with these, learn to play, and figure out if I think the game is any good at all. The mechanics seem very, very interesting. The resource system is pretty unique. It's like a different take on cards in hand as a resource, right? So it's like a mashup between like the pitch system from pitch system from Flesh and Blood and lands from Magic. That's kind of what it feels to me, but not really. It's weird. Maybe it's closer to a mashup of Magic and the World of Warcraft system, where you can put any card down as a resource. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Combat is very similar to Magic or Force of Will, actually. Actually, the combat reminds me a lot of Force of Will. But I think there's a lot of interesting things here, and honestly, I just want another good anime game to play, because I'm not super high on a lot of the current anime games. I love WeCross. I think WeCross is excellent. I think it's one of the best card games on the market, but I would like more anime games. I would love to have a good fantasy anime game. I know there's Vanguard, but I'm just not a huge fan of Vanguard. I think it's all right. I don't think it's bad, but it's just kind of like not my thing. But I think Grand Archive could be my thing. The game also has a focus on what they call extreme collectibility, and that's another thing that I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I do like really collectible cards, and I think the way that they're doing it is a way that is cool and not terrible. I guess that's how I'm gonna put it. Basically, the foils are gonna be super rare, and you have a really high likelihood that you're not going to pull a signed card, and there's going to be like signed cards that have exclusive signatures, which is really cool. It's something that a lot of Japanese card games do. So I mean, if you've played like Weiss Schwarz, or even like the Fire Emblem game, or Wii Cross has a lot of signed cards. It's something that a lot of Japanese games do. These ones are going to be signed by the artists, which I think is really, really cool. And these are not going to be like unique game pieces, right? They're just like special alternate versions, fancy versions of other cards that you can get, which is the way I like to do it. Honestly, my limit for rarity of cards is flesh and blood, basically. I don't think you can make it harder to get for specific cards than legendaries in Flesh and Blood. Fableds, man, I don't know about Fableds. That's kind of a hot take for me, but I'm like 50-50 on Fables, to be honest. I think they're cool. I know people are gonna ask. I think they're cool. I think that the fact that they're not super good is great, but some of them are really playable, so that could be a problem in the future, but that's a whole other thing. They don't really have that kind of thing, which is good. And there are some cards that you can only have like one of in your deck, because you have like this extra materialization deck. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's where your hero is and your equipment are, and you have like little trinkets and baubles, and you can play like one card from your special extra deck a turn, including leveling up your hero, which I think is cool. I think leveling up your hero is really cool. One of the things that I really like about this game is, there's another thing we talked about in the Zoglmann interview, my own card game. So I've been toying around with ideas for my own card game for a while, and this game has a bunch of similarities that I couldn't help but notice. It's an anime fantasy game, which my game would be that as well. You have characters that level up and you gain equipment, and the art style is just phenomenal. Those are some of the key things that I've been thinking about for my game. My game would be more co-op than competitive, but once again, that's a whole other thing. Bottom line, though, is I think Grand Archive is interesting. I think you should check out their Kickstarter. I'm not recommending that you back it unless you look at the Kickstarter and you're like, hey, this looks cool, I want to play this, and then you can go ahead and back it. Or, I mean, you can just do whatever you want. If you want to invest in it, go for it. But to be completely honest, to be completely frank, with every single Kickstarter that I back, I go in with the mindset of, if this fails, like if they put out the product and they never make another product again, then this will just be a board game for me, right? Because I back enough board games on Kickstarter. I actually back a lot of board games and like just one-off card games on Kickstarter, like the Binding of Isaac 4 Souls, which is great, but a bunch of other ones too, Mindbug. But I go into these TCGs with that same mindset, right? Whereas like, if this is all I ever get, right, this main set and the starters, this is all I ever get and all that ever comes of this, I'll be happy, right? Because I didn't invest in it. I'm just buying it to play it. And so that's my approach to these things. That's the approach that I would recommend for these things. But once again, I'll reiterate, if you want to invest, so be it. I frankly don't think a lot of these games are going to last a couple years. There's just too many. There's just too many of them. There's Grand Archive, Nostalgics, Akora, what were the other ones? D-Spirits. There's just so many that Zoglmann put it this way. There's going to be a bloodbath. And I agree. There's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be like a great purge. And who knows what games survive. Who knows if, MetaZoo even survives this. Though they're kind of on their way to other things. So I think they'll probably be okay, but that's a whole other story. Man, I can't wait. This is a tangent. I can't wait to see like the documentary of the rise of MetaZoo, like in 10 years or whatever. The eventual documentary that someone makes. That's going to be interesting. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with one other thing. I did mention that I have been talking to the developers of Grand Archive, and I was like, hey, I would like to feature this game on Red Zone Rogue. Would you like to collaborate or do a video? And they got back to me almost immediately, and they were like, yes, we would. Would you like to play the game with us and do some gameplay? So there's going to be a gameplay video of Grand Archive probably in the next week or two here on Red Zone Rogue with me playing with the developers. I'm probably just going to ask them some random questions as we play. It's not going to be an interview where like I just grill them for whatever reasons. If there are any questions you want me to ask in particular, you can put them in the comments to this video, and we'll see if we get around to it. But the point of it is to play the game and to showcase how the game is played. And I'm mostly going to be asking gameplay questions. That's what I'm mostly going to be asking. Stuff like, how many sets do you have planned in advance? How long you've been working on this game? They might have already said this before. Also, like, what's your approach to banning and restricting cards? What's your approach to power creep? What's your approach? These are the questions that I want to know. Like, because as someone who wants to play the game, who is very interested in the game, these are the things that I want to know. So those are the kinds of things that I plan on asking. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I'd love to hear your opinions on Grand Archive or just Kickstarter collectible card games in general, specifically like collectible games, because like I think board games and that kind of stuff are fantastic on Kickstarter. Like that's like some of the best, that's like the best place to get like new and emerging board games. Just go to Kickstarter and try to find something cool. There's always something sweet. You know, you got your Gloom Havens, Ice Havens, and Red Dragon Inns. There's a bunch of really cool ones on Kickstarter. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling now. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Maybe check out redzonerogue.com for some playmats and other channel merch. You can also check out Channel Fireball or my Dragon Shield affiliate links as well. And I will see you next time for some more card game content. Have a good one all. We'll see you later.